Lastly, we have ZX from CryptoEconLab to give us a closing wrap. Thank you.
Well, Network Analytics Day is awesome. A big round of applause to organizer and speakers. We should do this again in the next Filecoin event. Great. I'm just going to give a very quick close-up to just like set context and kind of talk a bit more about the vision here. Just to tie back to this diagram of the island economy, I think some speaker talked about it earlier, but I want to emphasize, I think previously when we talk about this diagram, we emphasize a lot more on the island. But I think sometimes remember it's also an economy, right? Like, and the beauty here is there's so much data and activity that's all public on the blockchain, right? We always say, oh, blockchain data is public, but then like we actually don't spend as much time or much investment to understand what's going on in the economy. And then we do have the opportunities in Web3 and especially in Filecoin, but this also applies to many other networks. And Filecoin is, oh, this slide is not updated. All right, so, and it's really a network of data. Data is our bread and butter. And then there are many, many levels of data from like the overall network level data, network level analytics, which many speakers talk about, service level analytics, and also like different application level analytics as FEM comes online. And then going forward, there might be even data DAOs and Web3 native data-driven applications. And I think getting good at understanding what's going on in the network and then asking ourselves what are the Web3 native business use cases that we can really build and interactions will really go a long way. I think we also talked about this before. I think Anton, we were collaborating on this about a year ago, right? Like really there is this supply chain of data going on already for like decades, right? I think it would take a different form in Web3. And then having our gathering really help us collaborate and then like understand what's going on and how can we build new stuff. Just to summarize, right, you have the main 4 steps repeating over and over again in the supply chain of data, from like data production, refinery, curation, and then value generation, attribution. I think there's a lot to be unpacked here, but let's cover our bases, make sure we really understand what's going on in the network so that we can make collective decision better, understand the service level metrics, and understand the different kinds of application that's being built on our network. And then, I mean, it's not linear. We can also do it all at the same time and also really build this kind of Web3 native applications. So just some practical advice, because I've seen many of different projects, open data access, right? Big thanks to Lily's team, open sourcing their code, their data, so that many of us can then build on top of what they have come up with to really drive adoption to our network. Again, we are still super early, right? Like we want to grow our ecosystem. And composable APIs, I think we start to see people building different data engineering, data analytics in different parts. How can we make that more composable so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel every time? And then lastly, thirdly, I think, I guess I want to go for dinner too. So I think it's really important to contextualize data. Well, I think data itself is just data, right? But its value really compound if we can contextualize to build product and experience, right? Like for example, we talk about reputation a lot, but reputation itself also needs a reputation, and how do we contextualize and then drive further adoption? And also growing our community and ecosystem. I think like it's great to have our first ever Network Analytics Day. I think we are working in different teams before. Great to bring everyone together, and I look forward to further growing our community and bring more users to using our analytics data. And then lastly, I think we say that to all teams, really about adoption, right? Like really drive adoption of our data. It could be a good entry point to the Filecoin network. With that, thank you very much, and thank you. Have a great Filecoin Network Analytics Day, and see you in the next one. Thank you.